Oh, well, should I get a motion to accept the agenda first?
I make a motion to accept the agenda.
And can I get a second?
I second it.
And with that, all in favor, say aye.
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 I
Okay. I hope you had an opportunity to review the minutes from our meeting in April 12th. Does anybody have any questions or need any clarification?
No. I move we accept the.
Can I have a second?
There is
all in
one
favor?
correction.
Sorry, yes.
There is one
Oh.
correction. Jim Wigan's name starts with a W-E-Y.
Okay. Well, the only other correction then in that case would be my last name on the board member present, second line. It's not it's T-E-H. It's a very common mistake. Okay. So noted. So Jim's last name, we need to just be noted on that one, and my last name. With that, all in favor, say aye.
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 Motion moved. Approved. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Jody, I'm assuming you're recording already.
Yes,
Sorry
I
about
am. Thank you. Nope, you're good. I got it.
I
Thanks.
think the fourth item on the agenda is public comment, introduction to visitors. I'm not sure if we have any visitors, but I do know that we have Jake Foster on the meeting, giving us an update from Watertown City Manager, as Watertown City Manager. So while we let Jake talk, can we all go on mute, myself included?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, board members. I'm really happy to be here. So, yeah, I was kind of hoping we'd be able to do this one in person, but the way things are going, better safe than sorry, as they always say. So, perhaps the best way to give an update on the state of things in Watertown is to sort of discuss our strategic plan that was adopted back in February of this year. Along that same timeline, the mayor and I also gave sort of a state of the city presentation to the local chamber here. However, this document and our plan really encapsulates what we're doing this year and for the next 3 years. So what we did, so back in February, as I said, Council adopted a strategic plan which consists of 3 strategic priorities that were sort of put together through a SWOT analysis of city staff, a planning session, workshop session with staff and council, and then a little bit of an additional follow-up work on the staff level. So we revisit our vision, our mission, our values, and then also set those strategic priorities. I'll just maybe read for you our vision statement, which we arrived upon is the city of Watertown is a tight-knit growing community that is welcoming, business friendly, and supportive with a thriving economy that enables neighbors, friends, and families to meet, socialize, enjoy a high quality of life. So quite a mouthful, but at the same rate, this really encapsulates what we're trying to do as Watertowner in the city and how we're trying to support our residents. The values we have identified are excellence in quality and service delivery, fiscal responsibility, ethical integrity, fairness and engagement communication, professionalism, visionary leadership and planning while maintaining that small town atmosphere. So these, along with our SWOT analysis, which is kind of identifying strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, are how we came about to set our strategic priorities. So these 3 priorities are really the overall, the big buckets in which we'd like to focus the energy of the city, both on a staff and a city council level. So those 3 strategic priorities are focusing on staff development and retention, managing external economics and external economic factors, and then also just kind of focusing on supporting development within the city in a responsible way. So in staff development and retention, that strategic priority, actions or action planning, which we did around that, were focusing on the concepts of skills development, cross-training, team building, succession planning, and staff retention. So this kind of came up through a number of ways. Obviously, as we've all experienced in this latest version of our labor market, there are more jobs than there are people willing to fill them. So I think every organization is really facing that. In order for us to be a strong city and support our residents, help our partners best, much like the library in Carver County, we need to be fully staffed with competent people. Another kind of factor in this is we have 3 long-term employees who will be retiring over the next 1 to 3 years. So it's planning for that and making sure we can continue to provide those services at the same level as they are transitioned out of the organization. External economics, that's another. So that's our second strategic priority or area. And that's another thing that folks are really dealing with. I mean, that's across the board with inflation, with the housing market taking off. Now interest rates are rising. We've heard about supply chain issues for the last 2. So the city is really focusing on that through using more sophisticated financial modeling, a deeper understanding of things that we need to have versus things that are nice to have. Consideration of the time value of money and decision making. Looking for ways to share opportunities or resource share with other organizations that might have a positive benefit on costs, and then just sort of developing those strategies for managing inflation. Maybe purchasing things sooner than later, as there might be something. Vehicles are the price of vehicles continues to skyrocket. That's one is maybe when in consideration of that time value of money, we can push purchases up or push them back accordingly to best manage that. And lastly, our third strategic priority is that of development. So we want to be smart about how the city develops, both from a residential and commercial standpoint. We're not just looking to get some, several low rate strip malls in town. We want a high quality housing stock, all those good things. So, we're looking at our infill developments right now. So raw land that is kind of encased within development areas or neighborhoods, looking to get, those sort of spots developed first, as there's already housing stock around that. There's also a need in Watertown for a senior living facility and multifamily housing. And on top of all that, we have a new wastewater treatment facility that needs to be operational by 2024, and the need for a second water tower also by 2024. So all of those elements help to support those infrastructure needs and those major projects in both our wastewater and water utilities. So with that all being said, other things that the state has focused on. So in our State of the City address, we focused on the fact that median incomes are increasing in Watertown, as are median home values. Our unemployment has been going down. Our poverty rate or our poverty incidence rate has also plummeted over the last several years. So things are certainly improving in Watertown. We hope they continue that way, and the strategic priorities and the strategic plan is what we hope will continue to support that positive growth and sustainability in the city of Watertown. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions if any of the board members have any.
Well, Jake, this is Alan Krieger from Young America. I'm on the board, and I walked into your library today because I thought there was going to be a meeting there, and I was just really impressed with the first impression. Was really terrific. I give it a 5-star. And the ladies there took the initiative to direct me where I needed to go, and the other lady jumped up when a lady was trying to get into the duplicating machine to help her. And I was enticed. 5-star.
Good. Well, we're glad to hear that feedback, Alan, and I'll be sure to share it with our front desk staff. And it sounds like you probably spoke with a few of Paul's employees as well. But glad to hear it.
One other thing is, I track things that are. I'm on the city council in Young America, and I track things I track Watertown is covered in the newspaper. I get every day, every week. And you get in a lot of coverage in the media too, and that's really a nice plus. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, Jake. My name is Charles. What's the projection of population growth in Watertown that you all are seeing? I mean, both from a pure number standpoint versus your demographics, like children and adults kind of expectations.
Yeah. So, Charles, as I said, there's a need for senior housing in the city. So right now, our long-standing population is aging, as you're seeing, really in quite a few cities, not even just in Carver County, but throughout the state and the country. So right now we have a pretty high demand for not only, so need for that senior housing, but that is largely driven by the fact that seniors are staying in their homes longer than they'd even want to. In the city of Watertown, they're looking to downsize. They're looking to have, different amenities and more livable, smaller spaces. So what we really say, we need those facilities for them, but also senior housing that's, still independent. And that will free up some of our older housing stock for the demand we're seeing for young families to come to Watertown, in addition to the new construction homes we're seeing. So basically the population here is wanting to stay put. So the people who've been in Watertown for 20, 30 plus years looking to downsize want to stay, but where we're seeing the more growth is those younger families wanting to come to town. So we need to create that availability housing stock on both ends so you can kind of shuffle around and then with those infill developments have the new home opportunities as well. So I think as of the last census, we were at 4,700-ish. And I think we're projected to hit that 5,000 mark in the next 3 years or so. And then from there, it really depends on where that housing takes off. But if you look, so just up the road in Delano, I spoke with their city manager a few weeks ago, and he said they did about 40 new home permits a year, give or take, but that was the average for about 10, 15 years. And now this last year here coming into this summer, this construction season, they're doing 40 new home permits a month. So wow. They could potentially add, 400 or 500 new houses, which would be one of the higher numbers in all of the state. So, if that's, kind of how cities develop, that's, we're not too far behind Delano in that respect. However, I don't necessarily foresee that type of growth, but once you get to a certain state or level of homes, it's not uncommon for those building permits to just then skyrocket. So certainly not something we're going to see in the next couple of years, but we want to be prepared for it should that ever come.
Thank you.
Of course. All right.
Any other questions?
Oh, go ahead.
So no, I was just asking in general, are there any more other questions? If there are none, thank you very much, Jake, for giving us an update on what's happening at Watertown.
My pleasure. And if anybody else has any follow-up questions down the line, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Okay. So next item is there are no other anybody else visiting us other than the ones that we've already noted? I don't think so. So No external persons. Okay. And Jim is not on today, so okay. Action 5.1. No action items. There were none that's on my agenda. Was there any that you have, Heidi, that you want to share with us, or we can go straight to item 6?
You can go straight to item 6.
Okay. So I think this was carried forward from last meeting. Discussion topic: adult service revenue streams. And I think, Jody, you're going to give us an update on that.
I am, and I'm going to try to share my screen here. Is anyone seeing that?
Yes.
Yes, I can see that. Sorry, I was on mute. I was talking.
Okay, I thought, did I lose everyone? All right, let me see if I can get it from the beginning here. If not, I'll just go through it this way. That's fine. Well, great. Well, thanks, Charles. Good evening, everyone. Yes, I am going to be talking about revenue streams for our adult services team. As you may recall, I am the adult services branch manager liaison for our system team that meets monthly, works collaboratively to plan programming for our system as a whole, and certainly for our individual communities as well. And then more recently in a very virtual capacity as well, as we look at our programming options. So I'm going to give a brief overview tonight about where those streams come from. I know Paul had shared a similar presentation and information on behalf of the youth services team not that long ago. So some of this may seem a bit familiar because there are definite similarities between our funding streams between our two teams. And it's great. I know I think I can speak for both Paul and I to be the liaisons and be able to work together and collaborate and talk through questions and opportunities as we work through this. Oh, and I bet it's not going to let me try that again here. If not, I'll just talk and you won't see my screen. Let's see here. There we go. It's just being a little slow. Okay, so it's important to note that while there is no line item in the general operating budget for programming, we do look to the county as a support for other things such as administrative tasks, our financial accounting, risk management certainly plays a role, as well as the support of contracts for some of the vendors and performers and authors and whatnot that we work with. We certainly look to the county for support of our buildings and our collections and technology that all play a supportive role in our programming. And last but not least, the county provides our staffing. We're constantly talking and making decisions about how to balance the amount of staff time spent on program planning and implementation and facilitation, and how much staff time is spent on those pieces versus providing public support on our public service desks. So if that's the case, where do our sources of funding come from? And they certainly come from several different areas, one of which, and I'm going to walk through these, and again, I think it's my system is really slow here, so I'll do my best on the slides that I'll just talk through it for you. So the first, and really the majority of our adult services programming that we offer in the county, I would say, is funded by legacy funding. And as you may recall, legacy funds are provided by the state, and they're administered through our regional Melsa library system. And these are for individual or joint team proposal requests to provide cultural programming for our library system. The budget is set on a biennium schedule by the state, and then Melsa looks at this and allocates it to each of the regional library systems accordingly. Once we know as a system how much we have, then we do internal allocations, and it's allocated out to our youth services team, our adult services team, and then more recently in the last couple of years to our intergenerational programming. There are guidelines for this funding set by the state. It's reviewed by Melsa, and then we are asked to strictly adhere to that here in CCL. And again, the request can be for system-wide initiatives or for branch-level projects. So a great example for adult services, just to kind of tie this all together, we often on an annual basis will offer up a Music in March, or this year it was Music in May series, or we've done Art in April. This winter we did a great winter author series, and those are all system-wide initiatives that we've looked to legacy funding to help provide for us. And then on a branch level, it may be just a one-off program that we say this particular community or this particular branch, well, I think they have a need or a desire for this type of program, this type of experience with cultural programming, so we'll ask for just a specific piece for that. Certainly this is very collaborative effort system-wide, and we also work with our community engagement coordinator to help us determine our outcomes as we ask for this funding and what we want to see, how we connect our communities to this. So we've had lots of authors and musicians and writing programs. Additionally, if you're familiar with the Club Book initiative, that is also something that gets provided to us through legacy funding. So, oops, go back here for a second. Then we also look to Melsa. So Melsa has several different work groups and teams that we have an opportunity to be a part of, and then several other representatives from the other regional library systems serve on those groups as well. And I happen to sit on one called Melsa Jobs and Small Businesses. And it's a great group to interact with and share ideas with. And from this group, then, from Melsa comes funding that we can specifically designate towards any sort of job or small business related program. So it could be a resume building class. This summer, we're going to be offering a Networking 101 class. Here in the county, other entrepreneurial type classes that we can offer. So this is a great opportunity for us, and there's actually kind of two pots of money that come out of this as well. Not only there's funding that goes specifically towards kind of a catalog that we get to choose from of vetted vendors from Melsa, and that's the actual jobs and small business funding. And then we also have what are called choice funds, and that gives us a little more flexibility. We can kind of seek out some of our own vendors and work with Melsa on the contracting piece for that. Last year, as we were coming, kind of out of the heaviest part of the pandemic at the time, we had some funding that the group decided to actually shift towards jobs and small business e-resources. So it's been really a great group to work with, always thinking how we can best utilize those resources. Another area of funding streaming that we have is, of course, from our library foundation. And those are requests that happen yearly, early fall, and the Adult Services team has annually and historically asked for support for our Adult Winter Reading Program that I believe you heard about last month. And so that is something that we look to annually from the Library Foundation. But there's been other opportunities as well that we've had great opportunities to ask for multi-team collaborative requests, such as when we first kicked off the use of the Beanstack software. Both the Youth Services and Adult Services team were able to go to the Library Foundation to help kick off the support of that before it was eventually absorbed into our operating budget. And we can't forget about our Friends of the Library. That's another great funding source for us as well. That is often more of a local branch request that one of the branch managers will take to their local friends groups, but we've done some system-wide initiatives as well. Last summer, a great example, Paul, Patrick, and I went to our friends groups and asked for joint funding for a virtual author panel with Twin Cities Sisters in Crime. So I think that was a really great opportunity to pull our friends groups together in that joint initiative. The Friends also provide other support as needed too at our local levels. Legacy funding doesn't necessarily supply arts or craft supplies, so if we're going to do, say, a take and make or something adjacent to one of our adult programs, we may look to one of our local Friends groups to help support those needs. And certainly other things like furnishings and other supplies that could potentially help support programming, we may opt to go to our Friends groups for that type of support. And of course, most recently, we're really fortunate to have the Charles Dulke grant as a funding stream now that we can submit requests for on a yearly basis. And this, again, can be a system-wide initiative for our team, or we could take it back at our branch level. This year, we had 2 projects that really grew out of discussions at our adult services team. It was the Next Chapter book club, and then our seed library project, which we're piloting in Chaska. But eventually we'll see how that grows and if it goes beyond the walls of Chaska, certainly. So a lot of, really exciting opportunities there. We had a meeting today with our adult services team and lots of great brainstorming and discussion happening surrounding this next round of grant proposals that will be going forward. And the last piece I want to touch on is that, there are other grants and donors and local partners that we look to and work with. We're always looking for opportunities like this. Certainly there can be LSTA federal grant programs that we can look at. More recently, I would say we've seen that more on the youth services side, but that's something we always keep our eye on, and similar other grants that are out there. Local donors with our community organizations, and adult services certainly works very hard on our partnerships in our county with our county partners and our community partners. You've heard me talk about our partnership with Career Force. We work with Carver County Parks, the Carver County Arts Consortium, First Street Center, the Historical Society, and so on. And although there isn't necessarily a monetary or funding stream that is exchanged there, just the depth of those partnerships brings so much to our communities and to the work that we do. So I apologize that my PowerPoint did not share properly for you. And that was a lot of information all at once, but I wanted to keep it short and concise for you. I welcome any questions you might have, or feel free to reach out to me at a later date.
Just a quick question, and I'm sure we may already asked the question before, but how do you budget for this kind of operation? Like, if you fall short, how do you backfill it, or what happens if you fall short from your target?
I think that we're, from the get-go, when we start planning, we have to tie in those funding streams early on to talk about, is it even a possibility? Can we do this? If that makes sense, Charles. Because in some cases, like legacy, we know a specific, we have that specific allocation that we're working with. Right. So we're really careful to stay within those parameters. And then when we start to pull in other funding streams, that's where we just really have to look for those opportunities to say, are we going to be able to do this? We can do this. We just have to figure out how can we make this work that seems reasonable and appropriate for the resources that we have available. And that, again, that we're going to get the best return on investment with the amount of people we can reach, the amount of patrons we can reach with that program. So that's one thing too with the virtual. We've had some great successes with our virtual programs and the reach that we've gotten with some of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
If there are no other questions, we're going to go on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you very much, Jody, for that presentation. But I guess, given that we couldn't see all the slides, would you mind sending the slides out?
Not at all. I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
So going to the next item on the agenda, collection appropriation, we have Patrick, and I think he's on the call.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Patrick.
Hi. This is a discussion item, something the board said when they came up with the discussion items they wanted to discuss. So in your
Okay.
packet, you should find a document called Collection Team Budget Allocations, which walks you through the what, who, when, why, and how we do this. So I'll give a broad overview and then be more available to answer questions for you. We basically start with a budget that is the budget from the year before. Then we look and find out what is working, what are the trends, and what we should change. So, for example, the past couple years, we have decreased the amount of funding for AV for movies because there's not been as much content available, because people don't have as many DVD players as they used to have, and because of COVID, that studios just were not releasing movies that then got made into DVDs. So we took that money and we put it into digital content. This past year, I went through the budget and cut everyone 2%, gathered up all that money, cut a little bit more from media, and added it to the digital budget for ebooks and e-audiobooks to get that percent up to 25%. Then the last thing I want to say before I take any questions is doing collection, this presents an interesting philosophical question. So in the charts, I have a nice pie chart to accompany this. You'll see that we spend 53% of our collection on adult materials, yet we circulate more children's materials. So do we take the money and put it where the circulation is, thinking, oh, if we had more money in juvenile materials, we would circulate even more juvenile materials? Or do we say, well, maybe we're not circulating as much adult materials because we don't have enough of them? So I think we're always trying to weigh of putting the money where it will do the most good. And where that is right now because of the lack of foot traffic in libraries, because of the patterns that changed during COVID, and because of just how people have tended to begin to use more and more online media and less in-person media, we've shifted so much more into our digital spending. So that's how we get. We start with about $500,000. We break it down by area, which you see on this chart here. And then each of the selectors whose names are next to the areas are responsible for spending that money. They check in. So Jennifer, for example, reports to Jody. So when Jody does her one-on-ones with Jennifer, she checks in about how her spending is going. And then at our collection team meeting, we have an acquisitions report we get that reports how people are doing on their spending. So we're not overspending, but also we're not underspending. That's my presentation part of it, because I wanted you guys to have an opportunity to ask questions or discuss among yourselves.
This is Gwen. Can you hear me?
Yes, Gwen.
I think I'm frozen, but everything else is working. I had two questions.
Yes.
Are you still finding that supply chain issues are delaying getting new books, or how's that going?
Yes, Sarah actually just sent out an article today that was talking about continued, it's not just supply chain issues, but the amount of paper being printed is not as much, because that paper pulp is going into making cardboard boxes to ship other items. So there is a paper, in addition to a supply chain issue, there's also a paper shortage. So both of these things is driving up the price of books. So even though our budget remains the same as it was the year before, we're actually getting less books this year in print because of the increase anywhere from 3 to 10% in the price of books.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a lot of boxes in my garage that I could donate to the cause. Ordering stuff is so easy, but you don't think about how that affects other things. My second question was about how the digital piece works with
Yes.
the Melsa and the Libby. Are there like criteria, like Carver County needs to have a certain percent, or, you know, is it all just the metro area, everybody does what they can, or what are sort of the criteria for getting books into that system or getting digital into that system?
Since it's so new, our focus was just getting stuff into Libby. And I'm on a team with Melsa that is all the collection development people. And on our to-do list is to do exactly what you said, to say, okay, we've got this collection, we're working out various parts of it, and I'll talk about one of the issues we're facing right now. Then the next step, I think, is, okay, everyone has to be dedicating at least X% of their budget towards contributing to this collection. Right now, the main thing we do is we do see a list of holds. So that would tell me that on the new Lee Child book, there are 112 holds, and we own 5 copies, and we have 50 of those holds. So we should be thinking about pretty soon buying another digital copy. So the Melsa is trying to maintain a 6-to-1 hold ratio, which is very hard. And we are trying to maintain that as well. But it's not like with the cloud library where we would get on a fairly regular basis, and Heidi will remember this, when the head of Melsa would send nasty emails saying, you're not spending enough money on digital collection. We think 25% is in line with what the other metro area libraries are doing. We service a lot of that money does go into filling holes as opposed to filling backlist or niche titles. So that's a long-winded answer to, yes, this is a shared collection. Yes, everyone is expected to participate, which was not true before with the cloud library. And yes, that everyone should be trying to maintain the hold ratio at around 6-to-1.
It sounds like you have access to a lot of good data to kind of analyze that too. And
Yes.
obviously, like Hennepin County is so much bigger than us, but yeah, you would want to make sure we're contributing our fair share too.
Yes.
Okay,
Which
thanks.
we feel at 25% we are, and when we notice things are out of whack in the hold ratio, then Serena, who's our new librarian at Waconia, who's our digital collection librarian, will purchase more. She's actually keeping track for me and developing a collection plan that's going to say of her adult budget. Let's say her adult budget is what? $75,000. That she's going to spend 50,000 of that on books that already are in the system and need more holds, and 25,000% or $25,000 on new books. I'm just making those numbers up, but she's trying to figure out how much money. If we spend it all on holds, then there's going to be nothing for browsers, and there's going to be no backlist. So that's another thing we have to try to balance, is new versus old, hot demand versus having breadth versus width. I'm sorry, breadth versus depth. Anybody else? Did that answer your questions, Gwen?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
I wonder if I goof up your numbers if I have a hold on both a physical and an ebook.
Well, one of the issues we faced, certainly when we went to the new Cersei system, is it wasn't clear if a book was a large print book or a regular print book. So we do have people, we have some people put holds on both, trying to get one as soon as possible. But when we went originally to Cersei, it didn't make that distinction. So Sarah actually has all these hold lists of like over our 6-to-1 ratio for large print. And she doesn't want to fill those because large print books are like 30% more expensive than regular print books. So you're not messing with us, Gwen. Don't worry about it.
Well, that explains a couple times I have picked up a book and it's been large print, and it's just like, did I order this?
Yeah. you must have accidentally either put it on both or accidentally put it on the large print version.
I think,
Because you look,
yeah, I
and
didn't
say,
know.
oh, this one doesn't have as many holds on it.
Right.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
I don't
Patrick.
mind, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just been a surprise.
Yeah,
I'm
go,
s-
Alan.
Well, I didn't mean to cut in. I'm sorry, Gwen. Are you done? Okay. This is a question about ink. Norwood Young America has put out a monthly newsletter, and we can't put it out in hard copy anymore because we can't get ink. Do you see anything
Wow.
like that? Do you see anything like that in the book industry?
I've not seen that. All they use the term production problems. So that could be it. Let me ask Sarah. Sarah reads Publishers Weekly and all these trade journals on a rather regular basis, and I will be happy to ask her that and follow up with you. All I see is the more general production problems.
Okay, that'd be fun. Thank you,
Yeah,
Patrick.
of course.
Take care.
Thank you.
More of a general question for me, like, with more and more schools, kids liking more digital, do you see at some point that you would increase the children digital or the youth digital portion to a greater proportion, even not cumulatively at 25%, but even more than 25%? Do you see that happening though?
Well, I
Just
see
a general perspective.
Yeah, I see two things happening. I would like to see us, it's taken since I've been on the collection team to pat myself on the back here a little bit to get our selectors to be so print heavy and to try to get them to buy more stuff in digital. So while I'm not dragging them, I'm pushing them along to buy more digital generally. So that would help children if we just went more in the digital budget. Here's what we come down to, Charles, as I was just describing, is the push and pull. Kids don't put holds on stuff. That's just the nature of it. For the most part, kids come in, they look for something digital. If it's not there, they're not going to put a hold on it. Where adults will put a hold on it. And since we try to maintain a hold ratio on all of our collections, we say, okay, here's yet another title is we have to buy some more copies of it because we have people waiting. That's less money we can spend on other materials. So that's why we've kept the children's materials a little out of whack. It's why it's not 50-50. Why it's 75 to 44 is because of children not placing holds on items. The other thing is some schools, not all, and I think only a couple in Carver County have access to Overdrive. That's Libby's parent company, have access to Overdrive's product for schools, which I can't remember the name of right now. So there is, for some school children, another avenue into ebooks. So that's a nice discussion we can have when we look at, when we review Serena's collection development plan for ebooks. We might say, hey, we've talked about this some more. With more and more kids going digital, we really got to spend more money, either of our current digital budget on children's materials, or more than likely take more out of the print budget. I would like to see us take a lot more out of the print teen budget and put it into the print digital budget. But I don't buy that collection, so it's using persuasion and getting my other team, the members of the collection team, to go along with that idea.
I do have one last question. It just dawned on me while you were talking earlier just now. Like, when, for us, I guess, I still like hard copy. I know I have digital, but I hate to read digital. I still like to read it off paper. Is there, and a lot of times they can retrieve the digital into a reading tool, right? Is there something like a tool that works with the way our digital data is held, such that they can have it like like an Amazon tablet thing? Like, are we planning to even like let them be able to do? I mean, if some people don't walk around with Wi-Fi, I mean, a lot of people do, but You know, would there be like a booklet, kind of a tablet that they would be able to have to read? Is there something like that in the works at all?
I read, well, digital books you can read on any device, just
Right,
about.
right.
I read books on my phone.
Okay.
That's how I read digital books. In fact, I just had one that got returned on me that I forgot to renew. Drat. So I'm not sure, Charles, I'm not sure I understand your question.
I was just trying to see if, you know, there are different tools and everybody has a phone, but do you have customers that want kind of a tool other than just a phone, but more like a book feeling, but actually it's digital?
Oh,
Like, you know,
okay.
you walk around in that Amazon white, that white tablet thing where you can see everything in white and black, you know, kind of a thing. I was curious, do you have any customers looking for something like that?
Yeah, we have many customers who have Kindle Whites.
Right, Kindle White. That's right.
And it is possible to transfer a Libby download onto a Kindle.
Oh.
You can certainly download it easily on iPad, but there's a process. It's a few steps, and we got to teach people how to do it. But if you want to read book on a Libby book on your Kindle that the library has purchased, you can do that.
Okay.
It's more difficult to do, almost impossible to do on a Nook and on a couple other of the more proprietary e-readers.
Right.
But Kindles, it is possible to do it on.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work, Patrick.
Thank you, sir. I
You're
love
welcome.
spending other people's money.
Can I ask one more question?
No, Gwen, you cannot. Of course. What can I help you with?
Well, when you were talking about iPads, I was curious, do we have like little tiny, I don't even know if they're iPads that kids can check out to play games and stuff?
Heidi could speak to the history of that more. I know since I've been there since 2018, this idea of circulating hardware has not really taken off. I know at one time Waconia had Chromebooks. Victoria, when it opened, had laptops or iPads it was going to check out. And
Okay.
the audience for it, in was my understanding, just wasn't there for it. That may have changed, but with so many kids having to get, so many schools giving
Okay.
out Chromebooks, that we have not just been that lender. Yeah, we tried it. It didn't work the way we envisioned, so we didn't do it again. Is that, Heidi? Are you there? Is that fair to say?
Well, the reason I ask
That is fair. That is accurate.
I
Okay,
was
thank you.
over with I was over with my great niece, and she lives in probably the Dakota system. And she pulls out, she's 6 years old, and she pulls out this little thing. She's playing games on it and moving stuff around. And it's like, where'd you get that? And she said, the library. So it made me curious if we had something like that.
I don't, I
Thank you.
School? I wonder if she meant her school library. I'm not aware of Dakota loaning devices. I'll be happy to check with Russ and follow up with you.
No, that's not necessary. It just
Okay.
was amazing how she was maneuvering, and I didn't even think she knew it, and she was games and doing all sorts of stuff. So.
All right, well, thank you for giving me an opportunity to present, and I enjoyed answering your questions, and I'm always open to answer other ones if you think of them after the meeting. I'm easy to get a hold of.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you.
So we'll go on to the couple of items here. There are fines. Is anybody going to give us updates on fines? I think there were some numbers here. Fines and other business on future potential discussion topics. I'm not sure if we have time to go in there, or do we go straight to budget updates?
Okay, no, I'll give you a little bit on each of them.
Okay.
We've gotten a lot of individuals concerned about fines ever since we came back to
brought it
being
back,
fully
yeah.
open. And they've been concerned about their fines. Also, the fact that most libraries in the metro area have gone fine-free, and Carver County has not. And we haven't had any formal recognition or direction from the board as to whether we should. So I'll be bringing some pieces before you so you can see what would happen if you decided to go fine. It isn't just one answer to that. It isn't. There could be several ways to go fine-free, but what would happen with each of those ways, and what do you want to do at this time, and what do you want to recommend or not recommend, so that we know that we're going in the direction that the board wants us to go. And then the future potential topics we keep on the list of what's coming up, lessons learned, Melsa membership benefits. And I realized today as Jody was talking, we should talk about LSTA funding as an individual piece as well. And now you can go on with the budget update if you want.
Okay. Anybody have any questions I want to add to any of the other business items? If not, we will move on to the budget.
I was
So we
curious.
are. Go ahead, Alan.
This is Alan. I was just curious, Heidi, what is the total amount for all the libraries together, the total amount of fines that is in arrears now? Approximately. I'm just looking for a ballpark figure.
I couldn't give you an approximate. I'm trying to. No, I don't have that number down either. I just can't give that to you. I'm sorry. I can
Okay.
look it up and come back with that
Okay.
number.
Okay. So
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Okay.
If
So-
I recall, if I could interject, I think there was an article you were quoted in, Heidi, that featured Scott County, and I think their number pre-COVID was about 110,000 a year.
And ours was more than that.
Anybody happen to see a High and Lois cartoon this last week about Lois going to the library with one of her colleagues and trying to pay a fine, and they said, well, we've eliminated all fines, and the comment she gave was, oh, there's so many good things in libraries. Here's another good thing. Okay. Well, we'll pick up from where we left off then. Thank you, Heidi.
Okay. Well, and on the budget
Yeah.
update. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
On the budget update, I'm actually going to tell you that we're pretty much on budget, except we need to spend some of our replacement furniture and equipment budget soon so we can get it in before the end of the year. The big piece that is not in line is the fines and fees budget, because we've seen a dramatic decrease in the fines and fees we are collecting. Part of it is people won't pay. Part of it is that we've gotten a lot of Hennepin County users during the pandemic, and that is the way Hennepin does it, so they feel we should be doing it the way Hennepin does it. We have other library systems that people, whether people have moved to Carver County or they're coming over for work or whatever and stopping by the library. And their libraries don't charge fines. So they're surprised at what we do, but also the big increase in our virtual, our electronic circulation has impacted our fines that are collected. Our revenues are down because there are no fines. As soon as it's time for an ebook to go back, it automatically goes back unless it's renewed. You heard Patrick just say he forgot to renew his book, so it went back. His ebook went back, but it goes back automatically. So those are things we're looking at that are a little out of line with what our trends normally are in the budget. So it was an interesting thing to see this month.
I was looking at the fines and the fees line, given the fact that we had a topic on the previous section, and I guess it's, what's the experience of the other libraries when they took away the fines? Like, were they still missing a lot of books, or were books still coming back, or were there a percentage of books that they actually wrote off because there was no fine and people were just not returning them?
And
Like, any anecdotal data from the other libraries about that?
Yeah, that's what we'll hope to bring to you as well. The information that they have found that about exactly what happens.
Okay.
And they've instituted various policies. And just because they no longer charge fines does not mean they do not charge the fees or replacement costs for the books. They still do.
Okay. Okay, so it's a fine for the late fee, but the cost of replacing the book is still encumbered on the lender, the borrower of the book, sorry.
Most
Okay.
of them. But every 5 years, we go back and we do a fine forgiveness because our fee forgiveness, because there are, after a certain amount of time, people just aren't going to bring those materials back.
Right. Okay.
I think that I just want to interject this if possible. I think it's a good discussion. I also want to be sensitive that we're in a high inflation period. And so I know part of the conversation will be is if fines decide to be waived, the question will most definitely be asked is where are you going to make that up in the budget? And I don't know
Right.
if that needs to be the end all for the decision, but I think that needs to be part of the discussion. And I'll speak the other side of my mouth, which is when our kids go to the library, it's not a deterrent right now, I think, because the children's materials are excluded. And there's many a days where we've forgotten a book past the 2-week mark. You can check our record of getting materials back. So those are very real things that'll go in part of the discussion if it makes it in front of the board.
Are they mostly adult books? Or would you say children and youth that are overdue?
Nearly 100% of the books our family checks out are kid books. I don't know what the checkout ratio is with the balance of the board, but I know that Patrick presented recently. I think he said that for instance, Victoria's library, they're number one in percentage of circulation for kids, and it's like 75% of their circulation is kids.
That's correct.
And it's a lot easier to lose a book in your house that's a children's book that might get put under the bed or under the mattress than an adult book. Adult books tend to be lumpier under the mattresses.
I found one in the refrigerator once for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. It's amazing. It truly is.
Thank you, Heidi, on the budget report.
Thank you.
If there are no questions, we'll go to your director's report then,
And
Heidi.
it stands as enclosed with 2 additions. Under culture, we had our all staff meeting this last May meeting this last Friday. And Commissioner Uderman came representing all the commissioners and did a presentation and spoke to the staff, thanking them for their service to the residents of Carver County and what great service they were giving. And I have to say that did so much for how people felt about themselves, how our staff felt about themselves, to know that they were acknowledged for the work that they've done that's been above and beyond the call of duty, that people recognized and that the commissioners recognized. And it took having a commissioner come to make that a reality to them. So my thanks to Commissioner Uderman. I don't know if, Commissioner, you want to say anything more about that?
Well, yeah, I think it was important to have somebody on that, and I spent time with each one of the library leaders to get their input, and it was a resounding appreciation and recognition that was needed, and it shouldn't be just once a year. It should be regular. Also had the opportunity to plug it in with some of the things that maybe when we're in our verticals, we don't necessarily hear about things that are overarching, and how some of the things that have come out of the library have inspired bigger things within the county. For instance, library leading the way on broadband pucks with the heart of getting access to kids and families where there's a learning gap, or education gap, connectivity gap. That has bubbled up from a board level where we've assigned $6 million to be the first county in the state with 100% broadband access. And I think it's important for folks to hear when they do something well locally, how when you share those best practices, they inspire and advise in other areas. And then I think that maybe sometimes to hear a leader that gets to hear things at the board level, we're no more or less important than anybody else, but how those stories are percolating, because oftentimes the team takes time to celebrate those things, whether it's in the newspaper or whether it's we get, this is one of the few divisions that we get updates on a quarterly basis in our mailbox. Those things make a difference. And sometimes you just have to connect the dots of hearing it, because sometimes you're in the same building every day working with the same people, and you don't necessarily hear those things. So I hope that we've been able to do that. And then by Heidi's invitation for me to be there, it's spilling over into other areas. And so we've got an all staff meeting coming up where it was inspired by the library taking the step to invite and our willingness to be there, that we may be able to replicate what you just said, to tangibly change culture for the better way, starting with the library. So yeah, thanks for allowing me to say a few words.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
And
Matt.
then there's one addition under finances, and that is that the Dalkey Grant Board is being formulated now. They'll be meeting in the first week of September. So I'll need one person from the Library Advisory Board to serve on that. And Charles, you served on it last year. Could you speak about your experience on that?
I like reviewing the grant request. I think sometimes it was eye opening to me. I always remember that a couple of things that was being done, like the STEM projects that they requested, or the additional Wi-Fi puck that they wanted to work on. And then for me, it's always I keep saying it again, is about different programs and projects that they have that we don't think about, but someone came about and thought about it, and then you go, wow, I didn't know that, and that's something that I keep sharing with my kids over this past weekend, and then they were like, really, the library does that? I'm like, yeah, I did. It's like they were really amazed. So I think it's a good opportunity to learn, what's happening in the community, what projects are being looked at that collaborates with what the library can contribute to the community itself. I think it's something that's nice to have to be able to do and to understand and to read.
Okay, so
I'm not sure. I mean, if you don't have anybody, I'll do it again. But I'm open to anybody else who wants to get that opportunity. Go ahead, Heidi. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
in.
no, is there someone who wants to be on that granting board?
I would like to.
Jan,
Yes.
okay?
There you go. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you. I know I will enjoy it.
Then I know which area I need to have represented for the friends and so on, so we can work on that next. So thank you. Back to you, Charles.
Thank you, Heidi. Well, I think Nick is not on. There's an item here for Divisional Director report, so we'll just keep going to the next item then. The Trustee and Commissioner reports, and I guess Chan, Hassan, and Victoria. Anything?
Okay. Yeah, so as usual, I gave you lots of photos and I just want to give you the story behind them, comment on them. So if you pull out the board packet with my report, the first one is of the Read, Stay, Play. This is actually a program that began on the western branches, which is have some passive programming going on for like a 4-hour period. And we did it at Victoria with great success, but I think it really shows how one branch will have an idea, then others will assume it. The second is a picture of a poet we had during National Poetry Month. And I think you can see there a tripod. We were also, as we were doing it live, we were also broadcasting it live on Facebook. So it's a really good example of a hybrid program. Over when I talk about the Chanhassen things, there's a picture of a window. I think I'll let the commissioner speak to this one when there's an opportunity. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about were the 2 pictures of the Friends of the Library book sale, the calm before the storm, and then the storm. We had probably 80, Gwen was there for the push. I'm going to say about 80 people pushed their way into the building, into the room when we opened up. It was a madhouse. We set a record of number of books sold. The books that didn't sell that were still in good condition, we put out in our cafe area. And we've probably already sold a 10th of those in just a couple weeks. So people just continue to buy books. So we had a very, very busy month at Chanhassen with some programs and with our book sale and at Victoria. Commissioner Uderman, do you want to speak to the window? I'll have the photos of you and the other commissioners next month.
Don't share those pictures. Share the one of Perry. Perry was the first little girl that was able to put a book through the hole and get to see the book roller coaster. And after Perry went, every kid and mom and dad wanted to do it too. And there was a mob right by the window. Now, Patrick, I don't know if that mob's continued or if people are catching on. I'm hoping that Eric and the sign shop can get that signage ready to go because it can be confusing if you don't guide people to it. But there was just an overall fun spirit of the people that were gathered. Commissioner Degler, Commissioner Workman had a chance to, but I think Perry stole the show. I think she was maybe a 6-year-old that put that book in there, and her brother didn't want to do it, and then he did it. So it was a lot of fun. I hope the energy continues.
Well, I could take a photo like on the hour of that happening because I was on the information desk today, so I have a clear shot. And every kid who put a book in the book drop then went over and watched it go through the automated materials handler. So yeah, the permanent sign is on the way out, and there's a little handmade sign, a little printed off sign there right now. But it's been very popular.
We might hit 2 million in circulation. And so, backstory for everybody. Originally, when it was hatched as an idea and affirmed by a bunch of people that came out to look at it, many people on this call. Our facilities guy thought it was gonna be 20 grand to do it. It's like, oh geez, that's not gonna work. He thought we were gonna have to punch in from outside where there's a brick wall and thought there'd be some structural issues. And so when we put our heads together, it became inside. City of Chanhassen picked up the tab. I think it was like $1,500. And for those kids and parents to get a chance to see it, I think it's gonna prove to be money well spent.
I saw the picture on Facebook. You guys are standing by the window. Someone posted a picture on Facebook.
Yeah, the city PR people came out and took some nice photos.
Right.
Yeah, so that's my report from Chanhassen and Victoria. Thank you as always for your support and letting me have an opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Patrick. Next, we have Chaska. I assume it's Jody.
Yes, thanks, Charles.
Yes.
So we had a great month, busy month at Chaska as well. So I'll just hit a few of the highlights, and I've included several photos along the way as well. One note I need to make for sure is that Jennifer was out doing outreach at the ECFE's Food Truck Festival event to promote summer reading. And in my text, I have 100 plus in attendance, but it actually was 400 plus in attendance. So she visited with a lot of families, which was a great opportunity. We had a very busy squad car story time just a couple of weeks ago with community service officer from City of Chaska. We had 145 people attend that. They were lined up outside on the plaza afterwards to visit with the service officer and take a look at the squad car. We worked with Chaska Human Rights Commission. We did some book displays in promotion of their Immigrant Voices event that they were having all month up at the community center, so that was great. And then a couple of other very exciting things. Of course, we had the launch of our Charles Dulkey Seed Library project and had a great event. I believe I saw a couple of you in attendance, Commissioner Uderman, and I believe Jan was there later as well. And just a great turnout for that event and a great partnership with some assistance from the Carver Scott Master Gardeners. So really great way to kick off the season ahead. And so we've got seeds available and all the accompanying information. So we're looking forward to that project. And the Friends of the Library hosted their first Saturday pop-up sale, and it was a huge success. We had people lined up outside the front door as well. So just in that little over, I would say close to 5-hour sale, I think they made around $650. And so they're having another sale this coming Saturday. And so the first sale they did in the fireplace area, they are thinking about if it's a nice day this Saturday, they may just set it up outside in the plaza. But great to see the energy and the excitement around that event. Any questions?
I have a silly question, and that goes with all these pop-up sales and the book sales. I think you do, but do you pre-tag them with price, or do they get to haggle with you how much to pay?
No, our friends group has signage that says specifically the price for them, and they pre-tag a few specialty items, I think, but for the most part, it's paperbacks are such amount and hardbacks are this amount, etc. So,
okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't haggle over the size of the box that people are allowed to stuff boxes and bags on Sundays at the Chanhassen sale. We're just like, oh, your bag is suddenly gigantic. Please put more stuff in it.
Oh, do you have fill the bag for $10?
$5.
$5. Okay, thank you. Next, we have Paul.
Good evening. Yep, it's good to be here. Thank you. So I think I'll pick up on that point about the book sales, and that is that each of our friends groups also is they have their set prices, and then not at every sale, but particularly at the multi-day sales, is they'll have a bag of books. And I think at the Western branches, I think they're more like around $7 or $8 a bag, but still a bargain, no matter which way you slice the pie. So we do have a book sale coming up at Waconia Branch on Saturday, the 21st. It won't be in the library. It'll be next door at City Hall, and we'll be borrowing the senior center room and one of the conference rooms there for our setup. Gives us a lot of space to spread out and good use of that facility. And then in Norwood Young America, we have a book sale on the same day as the Artisan Fair in downtown Norwood Young America, and that's on Saturday, June 4th. And in addition, it'll be big busy day because out on the street on Elm Street there will be artists and food vendors and all kinds of great things happening. Up on the patio outside the library facing Elm Street will be the Friends book sale, and then inside the library will be a quilt show that we're hosting with a local quilters group that's a part of the Artisan Fair. So lots going on Saturday, June 4th. Summer reading program, branches are really we're coming down the home stretch on our planning and dotting the I's and crossing the T's, as the saying goes, on plans for summer reading program, which of course, reading is the big thing that we push with the kids, but this year we'll be back to having some performers, not as many as before, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if we settle on a better mix of how much resources and time we put into performers versus other learning opportunities. So, and several of our branches, we're going to be experimenting with outdoor performances and using outdoor facilities from our cities. And in Waconia, this past Saturday, I'm jumping out of the report on summer reading program for a second, just to point out that we did a music in May event up at City Square Park at the gazebo, and it was well attended, and it gave us a chance to experience what we need to do to support doing outdoor program at an off-site location, and so we'll have 4 more of those over the course of the summer. I would highlight, and I'll just let the written report stand for itself unless you have questions about the issues we've had at each of our 3 Western branches. It really is just diverted energy and time away from important work when we have these headaches with our facilities, but that's life, and we just keep marching on, trying to engage the people who are doing the work to be sure that things get done. We are thankful, and Jake is not here, but to the city of Watertown for revisiting the status of where we had last left the corrections for trying to prevent future water and mold at the Watertown branch, and the corrective work that they're going to be doing out back behind the building in order to correct foundation and runoff and drainage will be well appreciated. And I think will go a long way to helping us prevent future incidents of water in the library. So having to go without air conditioning for the next couple of weeks, well, we don't want to have to do that. We will in order to get to where we need to go. And that'll be good. And then finally, and Jody, I think you'll find in your inbox too, is because I'm sitting at my desk, I can see incoming emails, is our partnership with Career Force from the county. As we got an update from the folks at the county that will be working on with this project, or not project, but initiative. And so both at Norwood Young America and the Watertown branches is we will have sort of a help desk kind of a setup with people from Career Force to be able to meet with our residents who are in need of those services. And so it'll be a work in progress. We'll be fine tuning that initiative, but I'm very glad that we'll be able to offer this at the Watertown and Norwood Young America branches, because I think there's a real need in those communities. Keeping in mind the positive note that Jake had made about the reduction in unemployment in Watertown, but nonetheless, this is good. So thank you.
Just have a simple question. You didn't mention it, but in the Norwood Young America, you guys had a carbon monoxide alert?
Correct. There was, and I still, it's not 100% clear to me of the cause. It came from, I believe, from some work that was being done down in the parking garage. The measurement, we were alerted because a staff actually had a reaction.
Oh, wow.
And so that initiated a chain of things in order to figure out what was going on. And there was a carbon monoxide testing, measuring that was done. I think it came in at 10 units per million, and I think 15 units per million is about where they identify health issues, but nonetheless, at the time, just because of the context of everything, is we closed the building for that afternoon, and then they fumigated or had windows open and all that kind of thing, and continued to test. The staff from the City of Norwood Young America were wonderful in their response to the issue at that point. And as a follow-up, we've put carbon monoxide testing units in the furnace room and in the staff work area that is sort of a closed off area. It doesn't have a lot of airflow. So again, thanks and kudos to the City of Norwood Young America staff for their response to the issue.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to figure out, you said there was no carbon monoxide detection units, and then how did you all figure that out? That's how I wanted to find out. Yeah. So someone was not feeling well.
Yeah, one of the staff got dizzy, and then a sequence of steps, and I would also highlight that the staff did respond very well and very quickly that day at that moment to trying to figure out what was going on. So
thank you. I just have one other question, not necessarily for you, but I think Alan, is that June 4th the same event that you talked about last time we met about the festivities there?
Are you questioning me?
No, yeah, I was saying, is June 4th the same time of the festivities you mentioned about that was taking place at Norwood Young America at the same time?
I think we're talking about two different things here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I think I was off on a tangent talking about the Stiftung Fest with the band and Molly B and everything. No, this is different. This is just coming up, and June 4th. The Stiftung Fest, if you want a little plug, is the last weekend in August, and Molly B will be there. And I'm also hosting a chess tournament.
Okay, thank you. Next item is Melsa update from our commissioner.
Yeah, really no update. We're going to be with the Melsa board next week in person. That's exciting whenever you get a chance to be in person. In fact, I don't think I've seen half the people in person ever. So we're looking forward to that. I'll have a better update next time. That's what I got.
Thank you. And Frank, do you have any update for the Library Foundation of Carver County?
Nothing else at the county board unless there's questions.
Anything else? I guess Heidi, the last items are the correspondence and the media pack that you enclosed.
Hold on a second. Did you want me to make a presentation today?
Oh, sorry.
I'm under Library Foundation and also.
Oh yeah, sorry. I completely. I thought it was my head thought Frank when I looked at the Library Foundation. Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Charles, and hello to everybody. I became a member of the Friends of the Library out here in Norwood Young America, and my first experience was helping organize and sorting books for the Artisan Fair book sale coming up on June 4th. So that was a very nice experience, and I gained some insight. Paul Erickson made a presentation last night at the Carver County, or the Norwood Young America City Council, and he did a very excellent presentation. I rate him 5-star. Had a nice presentation, and the visual was excellent. He has been very faithful in inserting into the Norwood Young America monthly newsletter a piece about library. But as I mentioned before, running out of ink, and but he can still make that presentation, or still make that insert into our monthly newsletter. That's going to be transferred to the website, just for your information. Um, what I wanted to do today is talk about a coin I have, and I really can't show you the coin. I was hoping to be able to pass it around at a show and tell. Here it is. This is a coin that was given to me recently. It's a military coin, and it was minted by a general, a four-star general who has passed now. His name is Jack Vesey. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he was a Minnesota boy raised in St. Paul, joined the Army, World War II, and spent 46 years in the Army. He became a four-star general, and his last post was at the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon. He's a very faithful Lutheran and religious person. He was on a speaking. He spoke all over Minnesota and probably all over the United States. But this particular coin, it's a military coin. It was given to me by a friend. And my point is that a book has been published just very recently of his biography, John Vesey, Jack Vesey. And the author is another chaplain, or is a chaplain, John Morris. And I've heard quite an extensive history of Jack Vesey. So there's a book for you guys to check out if you're interested. And just on the personal side, I'd mentioned last time that I connected Laurel Bradshaw with my niece in Vienna, and they are going to be having some kind of coffee or get together next month when Laurel goes to Vienna with her woman's chorus. And her woman's chorus is going to be singing this Saturday night, 6 o'clock at Mount Olivet Church in Victoria, if you're interested. Another personal item, I just recently bought a BMW motorcycle, which will go 130 miles an hour. So I'm all excited about that. And that's my story.
Thanks, Alan.
You're welcome.
Just be safe on the road. Beamer, the road Beamer.
Yeah, it's a Beamer. Yep, I promise I will, Charles. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Wrapping up, we have the media package and correspondence, and I'll hand that to Heidi to give us some details about that.
Actually, I will take any questions you have on this. Otherwise, it is enclosed for you. Person that puts together the media packet for us does a very nice job of scouring all the papers.
Nothing about this, but I do have a quick question. So the seats in the Chaska Library, are they available for purchase or is it free?
They're totally free. Absolutely.
Okay.
So, yep. And they, I forget, we have quite a few varieties of different types of seeds. So.
Thank you. Drop by and take a look at it.
Absolutely. Please do.
If there are no other business, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Our next meeting, Heidi, I just have a quick question. Do you think we'll want to do it virtual still, or would you want to do it could we do it face to face? Thoughts, anybody? Or we can decide later.
Where is it? Where's
I'm
the
sorry.
location for June?
Norwood, Young America. We
Well, I'd
certainly
say
could
no
do a
if they-
hybrid.
Yeah, maybe we want to wait and see how it is as the next couple of weeks progress, and then we can make a decision. Then I think we just need to see what's going to happen and how everything settles down. I think that's my suggestion. If that's okay with everybody.
Yeah, that's a goal.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, let's maybe Heidi, why don't you revisit that in a couple of weeks time and see what's the status of the incident rates and how the situation is, and then we can make a decision at that point. With that, now I'll ask, can we adjourn, and can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
And can I have a second?
I'll second.
And all in agreement, say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you in the next meeting, if not sooner in the library.
Good job, Charles.
Thanks. Bye.
And all of
Thank you.
the reports are so appreciated. And the photos are all